So there's this YouTuber known as Immortal Ideas. I tend to disagree with a lot of his ideas, so I'm going to do a video response to him. The video is called "The Double Standard of Charlottesville." I've already done a couple videos on this, uh, but I'm going to play the audio for you guys and respond accordingly. Let's see what Mr. Immortal Ideas has to say.
What's going on, YouTube? I hope you guys are doing well. So this video is going to sort of be an offshoot from my last video. I got many comments under that video, and I sort of want to address a little bit of them right now. There were sort of criticisms, sort of just lambasting me for, I don't know, holding a certain opinion or a view on this whole...
You mean on YouTube? Just kidding, guys. Let's continue.
Event, but regardless, I had many new subscribers. I've gotten hundreds of subscribers from that video, and first off, I want to start out and say one thing. When it comes to the topic of free speech, I'm a free speech absolutist. I don't care what your views are. I don't care what your opinions on certain things are. You have the right to go out there and to associate into a group and to air your grievances regardless. Regardless whether you like them or not. You know, the left doesn't have a monopoly on free speech. Just because you sit there and you box your views to say they're intolerant and they're so forward-thinking and progressive and diverse. They're actually not. A lot of them are inherently bigoted, and many people are obviously speaking out against it.
Oh boy. This guy doesn't like the left very much. I actually did a little bit of research. This guy, it describes it on his profile. He's an alt-right identitarian or something like that. So I already knew this was coming. I'm just putting it out there, just identifying who this guy is.
When it comes to the topic of whiteness, that's what so many people, obviously the people who are seeing this from the mainstream media spin have no idea who is actually out there protesting. They think it's a bunch of Klan members and neo-Nazis and shit like that. Now,
but there were a lot of Klans members and neo-Nazis there. You have a guy named Richard Spencer, which was one of the organizers behind this. Not the organizer, but one of the people who had get this together on Twitter. You know, there was, during a rally, he was like, "Hail Trump," and giving the Nazi salute. This guy's a well-known racist. He's proud to say this. And he was one of the people who was heavily involved with the movement. Then you had Jason Kessler, who's also a racist. You had David Duke, who's a former Grand Wizard, I think, of the KKK, Ku Klux Klan. So, yeah. I mean, this movement was originally supposed to be defending the Confederate statue from being moved to a museum of Robert E. Lee from the Confederate Army. Well, I mean, that's a noble cause. I mean, I don't think I would, try to protest you guys protesting the statue. But when I see a bunch of KKK people with KKK flags and neo-Nazi flags, oh yeah, by the way, they're bringing Nazi flags to this thing as well. I'm starting to question your motives a little bit. Oh, and you brought bats and shields and shit like that. Yeah, I question your motive that you're peacefully protesting, or if you're literally just trying to antagonize the left. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a controversial opinion, but what was your actual motive? The statue didn't even matter by the second day. It was just a lot of people screaming obscenities at each other, the left attacking the right, and vice versa. I saw there was a person on the right who charged into a bunch of people on the left. It was on both sides, as President Trump stated. But I mean, you can't just say that it was all the left's fault or pretend like the left, was causing all the trouble here. Obviously, the right had just as much to do with antagonizing the left as vice versa. So
obviously, there's a small group of them that will always sort of associate themselves with these groups, with the alt-right and stuff like that. And when it comes to their viewpoints and their world, I don't want a fascist state, and I don't want to live in a fascist utopia. It's no different than a communist utopia. I want to live as a free person. I want to live with free individual rights, and I want those rights to be extended to everybody living in this territory. Okay, so anybody talking... When it comes to do I believe that humans are all equally the same? No, I don't think so. But should everybody be treated equally under the law? Yes, I do think so.
Virtue signaling.
I agree with that model of society. Now, some people don't believe that, When it comes...
I certainly don't.
Comes to these whiteness workshops in universities, when it comes to people talking about whiteness and how you can't separate oppression from whiteness, why are you associating that with white people? Do you think it's only white people that have oppressed a certain minority group around the world? I mean, I could think of the Armenians. I could think of the whites actually in South Africa, the Boers in South Africa, for example. So it's not only white people. So if you're talking about
No, it's not the white people, it's rich people. That's in any country. Throughout history, it's always been the rich that oppress the poor. In the West, that tends to be more white people. And I think the left sometimes misconstrues this as, well, all white people must be, oppressing me. If it's, mostly rich white people who are oppressing me, it must be also the poor and middle class white people that are oppressing me, which is definitely not the case. That's not true at all. Um, so I agree. That's a misconstrued message that the left tries to send. Uh, However, uh, whiteness has nothing, you being white or anybody being white has nothing to do with the fact that you might oppress somebody else. I've seen white people who are dirt poor who aren't oppressing anybody. I've seen white people who do everything they can for minorities, to help minorities and to help groups that might need their help. So no, I don't believe this is a genetic idea that white people are oppressing everybody or anybody at any given time. I think you can be rich and powerful, whether you're a politician or a millionaire or billionaire, and oppress people and happen to be white, but you can also be black, you can also be Arabic, you can also be Asian. It doesn't really matter what race you are at that point. It's just how much of this you have. Let's continue.
oppression, that's not any type of association with whiteness. Any group can do that. Yet the Japanese do it to the Chinese and other Indonesian tribes. So I don't understand why that's only associated with white people, but it seems like that's the mainstream narrative on it.
I don't think you've actually talked to a liberal. I think you're just making a lot of accusations and assumptions. As I've stated, and I am a liberal myself, I do recognize that the left tends to overreact to things and make broad assumptions as well. But I don't hold those views. As somebody on the left, I don't believe that every white person is going to oppress people. Um, I'm proud to say that most of my friends are white. I have white people in my family, and I don't feel oppressed by any of them. So this assumption that the left just thinks that everybody's oppressed or white people are oppressing everybody is nonsensical. Now, I will say this though: in the United States, we have a country where our federal government is run by mostly white people. Most of the rich people in the West are white. So it makes you wonder, can there be white oppression? And yes, these powerful people hold a lot of power over the rest of the world. But are these on racial lines? Not necessarily. I mean, these guys aren't just oppressing minorities; they're oppressing everybody because they're rich and powerful. But they just happen to be a certain race. So some people construe that as, oh well, since they're rich and white, they must be only doing this to minorities or certain groups of people. I mean that's a bit of an overstretch, but that's how some people view the world. That's certainly not how I view the world. Let's continue.
And second off, you have this one professor. He comes out and he says, "Loyalty to whiteness, or treason to whiteness, is loyalty to humanity." Well, why are you associating that with people's skin color? You could call it something else. You could call it.
Seems like you have a problem with this one professor and not the actual left. I mean, that's an anecdotal claim. I don't know who said that, but I don't think that's the attitude of the left. I think that was just one professor at one university who may have said that to their classroom, and this seems to have riled you up a little bit. And I'm here to say, if you ask most liberals, they won't say that shit. Now, you have people on the fringes who are probably in Black Lives Matter and, these SJWs and stuff like that. But I don't believe that all of those people that are leftists are the left. I think those are a fringe minority of people who have the loudest voices, just like the neo-Nazis and the KKK on the right. And that's all we're seeing from the other side. All I'm seeing from the other side are all these racist morons. And then all you're seeing are all these morons that on the left that are like, oh, they're SJWs and they're super feminists and they're Black Lives Matter and they're Antifa. And, all we're seeing is how crazy the other side is and how racist and bigoted the other side is. and we're not really listening to each other. We're just making broad assumptions about how they are. And I think that's the biggest problem in our country today is nobody's listening to each other. We're just making assumptions.
Oppression, you can call it racism or something like that. But you have to apply those principles equally amongst all people. Now, if you're sitting there and you're aiming it towards one group of people, only white people can be racist, only white people can oppress certain groups, that's when you get the alt-right. That's why you have people going out there and protesting the way that they did. And that does not give other people the right to assault them and attack them because their views might be in the minority of the mainstream media narrative. And that's another thing that I.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's the sole reason the alt right is here. I think the biggest thing with the alt right was, we had every 8 years, every time an incumbent president leaves and we have a new election. This happened the last election, by the way. Actually, the last couple elections with Obama. There seems to be a fringe element of some party that rises up and because they are not happy with the last 8 years. With Obama, we got the Tea Party, who share a lot of the same fringe elements as the alt right. And then 8 years went by. Tea Party, they took some seats in the Senate and House, but they didn't really do too much. And now we're seeing another element of this, the alt right, who are just another political party. Who are basically a byproduct of a lot of these news outlets that just popped up on YouTube out of nowhere, like Rebel Media and Breitbart and all that good stuff. So, and also Poll on Reddit and all that good shit. There's a lot of roadways to why the alt right came to be, but I don't think it's all for the same reason. I think a lot of it was a lot of political discussions over the past 8 years, and people got radicalized and people became more emboldened to make their voices heard. Let's continue.
I want to talk about real quick is the mainstream media spin on this. When Donald Trump came out and he said that we detest all types of violence from both sides, the mainstream was very confused about this shit. They're pretending like Antifa. I just saw today that Antifa were in Seattle causing riots and ruckus once again. When Black Lives Matter goes out there and they cause a shit ton of riots, they go out there and they assault and they beat people up for being white. Ain't no white person better come down Sherman. He white beat his shit. I remember that video it was an infamous Milwaukee video after a guy was shot and killed by police. Black people sitting there and advocating for random white people who are driving down the street to get ripped from their cars and get the shit beaten out of them. I see people getting pulled out of their cars for wearing a Trump hat and getting beaten up by black people. I've seen it happen before.
Which is socially unacceptable. I mean, these are criminals. These are people that should be put in prison. I don't think the left are defending these people. I think that's all in your head because these people, most of the time, have been put in prison. If you were caught dragging anybody out of the car and beating their ass, typically the police would intervene. There's a lot of people on the left that would agree that the police would be more than happy to put these people in prison. And in a lot of cases, they did.
The videos are all around YouTube. So to sit there and think that that just doesn't ever happen is complete and utter bullshit. Second off, I could also point out the kidnapping of the one retarded white kid that was kidnapped by a bunch of black people who was tortured for hours and then finally released. He wasn't killed, thankfully. And these people were, rightfully put in jail and shit like that.
So what are you complaining about? I mean, it's fucked up what happened to the kid, but these people were put in prison for committing a crime. So the system works. I don't get what your complaint is here. Is your complaint that they're doing it at all? People commit crimes all the time. It's not just solely black people and the left committing crimes. I mean, you have people committing crimes all over the political spectrum and racial spectrum. You're trying to put a microscope on the left and Black Lives Matter people and try to say, well, these people are the worst and we're not so bad. That's what you're trying to do in this video. And I'm here to tell you, you're outright lying, dude. You're outright lying. And I mean, this video is going to run pretty long. I can already see it.
And what are you going to do? Say these kids are just, it's just kids being kids? You're going to sit there and you're going to pretend like, race had nothing to do with this, and then you're going to give these other people a little bit of a pass because they happen to be black people. That's what I see with the...
Well, due to the racial obscenities these kids were saying as they kidnapped this kid, I would say that it was racially motivated. I don't think anybody denies that it was racially motivated. I don't know where you're getting the fact that this wasn't racially motivated, but it definitely was, dude. Nobody is denying that. Maybe maybe you read too much Breitbart and said the left is denying that this was racially motivated. It was definitely racially motivated. Uh, I don't know where you're getting that from, but it seems to upset you a little bit.
The mainstream media. I don't want black people. I don't want to see violence happening towards black people because they're black. I don't want to see any.
Aw, thank you.
Any type of that shit. I don't want to see violence happening towards white people. I extend that to all people, you know. But when it comes to the left, they don't really mind, you know. If there's I had somebody comment on my video, yeah, we fucking hate nationalists. Okay, you hate people who love the country. Wow, that's amazing. That's an amazing point.
Oh, good Lord. No, no, no. People who hate nationalism tend to hate white nationalism, which is white supremacy. Or they don't like the idea, or these people who are on the left, they are multiculturalists who believe that we should be connected to the world and we should have trade with the world and we should, you know, bring people in from all over the world because a lot of these people on the left believe that's what makes our country great, is the fact that we have ideas and philosophies and things like that from different parts of the world. And the fact that we're so diverse is America's greatest strength. Whether you believe that or not is objective to you, or subjective. But what I'm saying is that's why people aren't so big on nationalism anymore. No, people don't hate people for being patriotic. That's retarded. No, nobody hates you for being patriotic, unless you're an Islamic extremist or something. What people hate is the exclusion, the exclusivity of it. People hate that you want to exclude everyone else from coming into your country. You have a lot of wrong ideas about the left, dude.
That's an amazing stance you're taking. You know, it's just fucking bonkers.
Oh, shit. He said bonkers.
But anyway, getting back to what I was saying about Donald Trump, he came out and he said we detest all forms of violence from both sides. Mainstream media had a weird little, you know, I don't know, they went strange about this because the violence was happening on the left wing. How many, dude, has the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, have they not seen what Antifa has done to...
There was violence on both sides. I saw the left attack the right. I saw the right attack the left. It wasn't just one-sided. And then obviously we saw the car driving through a crowd of people that injured a bunch of people. So it was obviously on both sides.
To places like Washington, D.C. Have they not seen what Antifa has done to places like Portland? Have they not seen what Antifa has done to places like Berkeley? Have they not seen what Antifa has done to places in Seattle? Literally just...
All right, so my video is running pretty long. I'm about 18 minutes in. Well, guys, I'm going to continue this video in part 2 of Immortal Ideas, the Double Standard of Charlottesville. Thanks for watching. I will see you soon.